Guys, before this video starts, I want to tell you about the sick website that sells hella cheap NBA jerseys. The website is thesemjerseys.com. I copped myself a few jerseys on there a while back, and I honestly don't know how their prices are this cheap. If you guys want to get a sick deal on a jersey, make sure you check them out. Link will be in the description, and use code LQG at checkout for an extra 10% off.
Check us out tomorrow. Super Bowl champ Stephon Gilmore joins the show. It's Tuesday on First Things First. Got a lot of questions for Stephon. It'd be nice to have him here.
Absolutely. He was best defensive player on the Pats all year long. It's one of my kids.
Back here with Antoine Walker. We're talking Rockets and Thunder. Didn't look like a great game when the Thunder found themselves down 26, but came all the way back fourth quarter. Paul George hits the three. He had 45 on the night. Less than a minute to go. James Harden hit the runner to put the Rockets up one. He had 42. Next possession, Russ makes the layup. Thunder up one. Westbrook, 9 triple-doubles in a row. That ties the NBA record. Harden tried to give the Rockets the lead. It does not fall. Thunder overcoming their largest deficit this season. They go on to win 117-112. Antoine, let me start with you. Who do you think is the bigger threat to the Warriors? Would it be the Thunder or the Rockets?
Oh, that's a tough one. I had to go with the Rockets, and just because of the offensive show that James Harden is putting on this year. I just think, he's at an unprecedented level on the offensive end. He's mastered the way to score under these new rules, be able to get to the foul line. I think Chris Paul, if he can stay healthy coming towards the end of the season, he's got a lot of rest.
Come on, I know they say this in Chicago just like they do in where I'm from. If was a fifth, we all be drunk. That Chris Paul, man, that's a big if.
That's a big if, but I also like the addition of Iman Shumpert. He reminds me a little bit of Trevor Ariza, a guy that can guard. He can make an open three. You add that guy. I like him better than Gerald Grant. Yeah, and then Eric Gordon too. You also had him. And then you can't take a lot from this game because Clint Capella was not playing.
Correct.
So that's why I'm looking at. So I like Houston as a bigger threat than anybody because they're able to score the basketball at a very high level.
The case for the Thunder, to me, is a very simple one. Paul George, we have less of a reason to believe Paul George's play is going to change in the postseason than James Harden's. Harden, first of all, at some point he's going to stop averaging 42, like he's been averaging since December 13th. So let's assume he gets back to a regular 35 a night. There is reason to believe he's not going to get as many calls in the playoffs, that the teams are going to try to trap him at midcourt, force the ball out of his hands as we've seen in the past, and that his game will, Paul George's game is more transferable to the postseason. But the other reason that you can make the case for Oklahoma City is, can Russell Westbrook play like he did 2 years ago for 2 weeks in the postseason? That's the question. Like, can Russell Westbrook get back to that level
Russ
of play?
Russ is my guy. I love Russ. I think he's, arguably, a lot of people argue me. I like him as the best point guard because he brings it every night. But the thing with Russ, he's not efficient enough for me this year.
Yes.
It's not his offensive game is not polished like it was 2 years ago.
Well, that's my point.
That's what bothers me about him.
I totally agree, which is what the only way they would be in the discussion is if a guy that 2 years ago shot 85% from the free throw line and this year shooting 66 gets back to that. If a guy who 2 years ago shot 35% from three and this year's at 29% gets back to that. He has to for them to be a real threat out west.
Yeah, outside of Steph Curry and Clay, y'all tell me just honestly, who you going to appropriate any type of faith to shooting under 25% from three? Like, seriously, like who, because y'all can't be just sitting there and be like, oh, man, for 2 weeks, Russ can't hit a shot now.
You can't hit.
He's shooting under 25%. Even in the big comeback, man, he took a couple shots he shouldn't took. So for me, if he gets hot, you know what that's who's going to affect? It's going to affect Paul George. Because he's been deferring to Paul George. He's been passing off a lot of them shots. He's been faking like he's going to take them, and he's been giving to Paul George, and Paul George has been, that's why they've won 10 out of the last 11.
Well, they're not deep enough. Let's be honest. They're not deep enough to beat the Golden State team in the 7-game series. Because now you got to rely on the role players. I don't know how good OKC role players is going to be. I mean, I like Dennis Schroeder. I think that's a great pickup.
Yes.
But then, Steven Adams is going to be solid. But then where you go after that?
Well, that's the thing about the point guard. When Russ is playing like he is now, it's not the numbers. He makes those other players so much better. That's why he is a triple-double waiting to happen. It's not about his three-point shooting. Now, as a floor general, Russ knows how to run a team. So if y'all tell me Russ is going to keep this back seat, I would have more faith in him that way compared to if he catches fire, it's going to have a negative effect. Those other role players aren't as good because Russ is getting them into the paint and dishing out purposely to open up the court for those other players.
We spent an earlier part of the show talking about how good Paul George has been and how good Paul George has been for the Thunder. We know how good Harden is. Would you pit these two together? Who would win MVP between the two?
Listen, I think right now MVP is a two-man race with Paul George a very clear third.
Okay.
I think that Harden is having the most individually spectacular season of anybody and one of the most individually spectacular seasons we've seen in modern NBA history on the offensive end. The reason it's a two-man race, despite that, and we can show it if you want, is Giannis has the one thing that has always been the MVP tiebreaker: overwhelming team success.
Team success.
They're going to win 60 games. It's not like his numbers are bad now. 27, 12, and 5. Like that is on a very short list, along with Anthony Davis and Kareem, for centers that have put up slash lines like that. But if you're either going to give it to the guy who's been great on an amazing team in Milwaukee or the individual success, Paul George to me doesn't check either box.
Now, Paul George, there is a storyline. We all saw that horrific injury. We see what Gordon Hayward is doing in Boston with that same type of injury. So I think it's baked in there. We can't remove that scar of seeing that, man, because we hadn't seen a basketball player get injured like that and see him now getting 28. But for James Harden, to his credit, he has 2 seasons, forget this season, that are better than the way Paul George is playing. Let's not forget when he got robbed of being an MVP a couple times. So, yeah, Paul George is playing great. Harden is the only one in that conversation if it's between those two, but we know it's between him and Giannis.
Yeah, I think it's Giannis. I think Paul George is third. He's having a great year. Unfortunately, these guys are having better years because now Giannis has got the wins.
You think Giannis over Harden?
Yes, I think Giannis over Harden. I just think when you look at Milwaukee Bucks roster, I mean, obviously we know a new coach, they play a different style, but there's other guys on that team that they're not very. Milwaukee does, even though they get the best record, I'm not scared of them come playoff time. I don't think they're better than Toronto. I don't think they're better than Boston. I don't think they're better than Philly come playoff time. I like them during the season. They've been great. Giannis has been unbelievable. But I think Giannis, the season that he's having, to be able to win at the level that they're winning at right now, he deserves MVP. James Harden, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I enjoy watching him play. He's one of the great offensive talents, but I believe what he's doing right now, it's tough when you dribble it 20 times. You take a lot of, you're going 5 for 19 from 3 sometimes. It's tough to give a guy like that MVP.
Listen,
I know they squeaked out some wins.
People bring up that he went 5 for 20 from 3. For all the times people bring up these bad three-point shooting nights, he's shooting 38% on the year. So he must have some good three-point shooting nights to go along with it. Now, in Giannis's favor, which none of us have mentioned, he might be the best defensive player on the #1 ranked defense in basketball. And so that doesn't show up in those stats I showed you. Is Giannis's defense, why do the Bucks have the best record in the league? Yeah, they got a top 5 offense, but they have the #1 defense in the league.
And #2 as far as shooting threes per game. People don't look at Milwaukee as, whoa, really? Outside of Golden State, they're hitting the second most threes, so that's that new style that you're talking about that has definitely led to.
Chris Middleton's an all-star. Eric Bledsoe's played, up to this level this year, so he's got the guys to step up. But I like Giannis this year for MVP.
When Harden's averaging 37, 7, and 8 for the year, 37, 7, and 8, and Giannis is in the discussion, it speaks to how good he's been. I don't think it's over yet. I don't think Harden's won the thing yet, but it would be shocking if the MVP is anyone other than Harden or Giannis, no matter how great Paul George has been.
All right, Antoine, we'll see you a bit later on in the show. Coming up, Danny Ainge. Oh, there's more. Is Danny Ainge right about Kyrie and the Celtics getting married? That's a discussion. That's next on First Things First.
First of all, Danny Ainge trying to steal my line. Second of all, Jenna, you said you were done with Danny Ainge.
Done with Danny Ainge? I didn't know there was more. No, there was nothing else in the prompter.
I'm looking at the same prompter as you,
and then all those
Jenna.
words came up.
Jenna will keep that number, though.